about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So as AI invades all industries, there's going to be very few industries where it's going to be immune. And McDonald's is now testing a new AI-powered drive-through ordering system. Apparently, they were planning this a couple years ago, but they had to shelve it because there were some accuracy concerns. But the fast food giant CEO Chris Kapczynski told Bloomberg earlier this month, according to Newsweek, that McDonald's is developing an AI drive-through technology with Google, and it's about 90% accurate. Now, that's interesting because I don't think I've ever had an order at fast food that was 100% right on. So even 90% accuracy, I think customers are going to take. And if the company is going to save money, now that they have to pay, $20 an hour minimum wage, and in fast food in California, it's going to happen whether we want it to happen or not. I have concerns about that. I'm mixed on that. But McDonald's going to AI is, you would think it would allow us to maybe get a Big Mac cheaper. I don't think so. I think the prices are going to be set. They're still going to be high. It might allow them to do a little bit more of a value meal, but the prices going up, those are here to stay. Even if they fire staff and change their payroll costs and increase their bottom line, I think the $5, $6, $7 burger is sadly here to stay. The company believes advances in the technology have improved reliability enough to justify another attempt that they had to abandon back in 2024. Customers had shared examples of incorrect orders, misunderstandings, and AI is not perfect. I'm telling you right now, I have seen AI misconstrue things all the time. And I've been a victim of AI trying to say I saw a patient I didn't see, trying to say I posted spam on an account that I never did. And so, but at least with the McDonald's order, I don't think customers are going to balk too much at it because they could say, look, sorry, you got onions on here and I didn't want onions. Or I wanted, In a message shared by McDonald's earlier this month, Kapczynski outlined a company growth strategy which includes a greater role for artificial intelligence and automation across operations. And so McDonald's is not the only one going to AI ordering. Wendy's, Taco Bell, White Castle also adopting voice AI in drive-through lanes. In fact, Wendy's has expanded its Fresh AI system, according to Newsweek, after partnering with Google, while Yum Brands CEO Chris Turner says Taco Bell also plans a broader rollout. White Castle as well. Other chains like Bojangles, Dairy Queen, Burger King, Popeyes, Checkers, and Rayleigh's are also testing similar technology. Now, so a concern I have is one of the things I did, not as a high school student, but when I moved out of the house when I was 18 and I didn't have a car, thank God there was a Jack in the Box in walking distance that I could get a job, work, and be able to support myself with. These jobs in fast food have been very reliable sources of income because the fast food industry is still a very vibrant one. You rarely see a fast food franchise close. I've seen a couple of them close, but for the most part, if you're going to be doing fast food, you're going to be able to at least make a rent or work. Assuming they're going to pay you a decent wage, for a while. It's not going to be computer driven, things like that. And now that we're seeing AI take over the drive-through so they can hire fewer people, we're seeing the kiosks, they still need humans because the robot technology to make burgers didn't advance as quickly as people wanted to. Plus these automated ways to do burgers and fries, very expensive, the machinery, not to mention if they broke down, what did you do? So you still needed humans, but they don't have to hire as many humans. And their payroll is dropping. And this is something that the franchisees are actually really looking forward to. And if the franchisees want it, and if the customers want it, because McDonald's as well as other fast food companies have gotten reputations of, well, somebody spit in my food, or somebody gave me coffee that was too hot, or somebody is going to adulterate my food. People want fewer people involved in their food experience. So it's happening. What about the youth? What about the teenagers who used to get part-time jobs? When these kids were out of school for 3 months in the summer and they were of working age, we made them go to work, meet other kids, go on dates, learn how to deal with an employer. There was so much these kids learned. But fast food is not where the teenager goes anymore. Fast food is where the average person who is unable to, get white collar jobs, finding ways to feed their family in customer service and food and retail. And you don't see as many, you might see them in In-N-Out and things like that, but you're not seeing a lot of kids have their first job at McDonald's or Jack in the Box, or like they used to, or at the car wash. Car washes are automated now. I remember telling my boys, go work at a car wash. You'll get wet, you'll stay cool, you'll get some exercise. But like, Mom, the car washes are all automated now. I'm like, really? I know. You see, I don't wash my car enough. So, if and I've noticed where I'm talking to AI, because I'm just having a conversation and they seem to be very pleasant. And I'm like, wait a second, or I'll make a joke and they don't laugh. I'm like, okay, come on, man. So it's happening. It's coming. We can't fight it. I wish there was something more we could do with our teenagers, because I like the way, I was raised, and I figured that, I saw how my colleagues and friends learned a lot having a first job. There's so many kids where their first job isn't until they're 25 years old or 28 years old. That's not healthy. They need to get in the job market early. As soon as they can start working, they need to get out there. And even if they don't need the money, they need to learn how to deal with employers, how to deal with coworkers, how to do time management. Fast food provided that for our kids. After school jobs, all of that. And franchisees were very grateful for always having a flow of employees. But things got expensive. Laws passed. They have to pay these individuals more. You didn't have to pay teenagers a lot, but you have to pay adults trying to raise kids a lot. And as a result, franchisees are going to try to find ways to save money. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
And we're back at the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So every now and then we hear of somebody saying, well, you need to drink your urine. If you're dying of thirst and you need to survive, you drink your urine. Or drink your urine for medicinal properties. Not my answer to that is no, 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 no. Remember a few years ago, there was this group called Urine Therapy Group, and they met, and group members would use urine topically for ailments or drink it. And apparently this is something that people were doing for centuries. They would drink their own urine, which I don't think is at all logical, because even if it was caveman days, if you're excreting it and it has an odor and it's something your body doesn't want, it means your body doesn't want it. There was a previous case study published in the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology that made headlines. And it was, I guess, making the rounds because it reported finding urine therapy to be potentially beneficial. Why? Well, they said a 16-year-old boy, under the direction of his mother, applied urine to his face to help treat his acne. And so apparently it worked, that they began to use and store the urine for future use. The problem is the urine became warm and contaminated, and then it subsequently inflamed the skin. So they did not recommend that be done. However, where this has been coming from is we talked about dry feet and the dryness of the skin, and how Caramel 40 and other medications that had synthetic urea as an active ingredient did have the ability to increase water binding capacity of the stratum corneum of the skin. And so it also, they feel that there could be some keratolytic applications where, like, let's say you have psoriasis or ichthyosis or dermatophyositis, sometimes higher doses of urea could break down the skin. But it's not something we recommend we do. You know, I've kind of talked about people peeing in the shower have nicer heels. But we really don't want you exposed to your excrement. Just not a good idea. All right. And if you remember, years ago, I actually tried drinking it. And it was the most horrible tasting thing out there. As you know, urine is yellow liquid created by the kidneys. It's a result of filtering toxins and unneeded substances from the blood. So the blood goes through the kidneys filter it, and then it travels through a ureter, then into the bladder for storage, and then upon urination, it travels through your urethra to the outside world. Why? To get away from the body. Now, why is it yellow? Well, because it has a component called urochrome. Urochrome is responsible for the yellow color of the urine. It's a byproduct of the degradation of heme when red blood cells are broken down. That's why you kind of get that yellowish color sometimes with bruising. It's a degradation of heme, which is a part of your red blood cells. Now, many people will say, Dr. Dahlia, my urine is nice and bright, so I know I'm getting my vitamins in. Well, vitamins may make your urine brighter because of the B2, the riboflavin. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. This neon yellow means the body is trying to eliminate the excess riboflavin. So, you know, in some respect, it could be suggesting that you might be taking too much. It does suggest that you got the vitamin in you, that somehow it got into your stomach from your mouth because something happened for you to now elicit that neon color in your urine. But it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, all good. I'd rather people get vitamins the more natural way, but if you do need to take a supplement, you know, you take a supplement. So what exactly is in urine? Well, you have the urea, you have ammonia, you have salts such as sodium, chloride, calcium, minerals, protein, creatinine, a variety of cells from the organs and the body part that, you know, touch that fluid. There's also toxins. But urine is made of 95% water. The remaining 5% has all of that, the urea, ammonia, the salts, the minerals, the protein, the toxins, the cells, the creatine, the protein concentrated in it. And it's a pretty high concentration. Now, people say, well, you know, if my urine smells, what does that mean? Well, healthy urine in a healthy person, that's 95% water, shouldn't be very odorless, or should be odorless. However, once it sits, once it combines with clothing, once it oxidizes, it could have more of a smell. If you're dehydrated, ammonia is so strong smelling that we might smell the ammonia more. If you have an infection, bacterial infection, that could also change the smell. Foods, medications can also alter the odor. So some individuals say, well, look, let's say I don't have vitamins, I'm starving. Will urine be a good source, especially if I'm seeing the riboflavin and the no, because the vitamins that are leached out into the urine are the excess that the body does not want, or it could be a byproduct of the vitamin that you took. So it's not in the form that you're supposed to ingest. Now, and I've heard for years, well, if you drink your urine, it's going to help acne. No, God, no. You do not drink the urine. That's a big no. Where, though, as we were talking about with this kid, the Propionibacterium acnes bacteria that is very common in acne might have a susceptibility to the urine. I would instead wash my face with soap and water. I don't think adding urine onto the face would be good. And again, the reason why people came up with this is because of cracked feet and how we saw that urea in urine products could help with the keratolytic aspect of the excess skin and the peeling. But I'd rather go for Clearasil. The antibacterial properties of urine, I will pass on. So, do you drink your urine if you are dying of thirst? So, here's the thing. Technically, before the urine goes to the outer part of your urethra, it's sterile. So you're not necessarily going to get bacteria unless, of course, it's coming out of a very dirty, urethra. But the problem you have is the more dehydrated you are, the more concentrated the urine is. And so now what you're doing is if your body needs hydration, you're not giving the body, hydrated, neutral osmolar, fluid. It's a very highly, because if you're dehydrated, what you're peeing out are drops of salts and minerals and toxins. That could really strain the kidneys and not hydrate you. I know there's been some survivalists that said, look, it's 95% water, so you're getting something in you. But I would, break open a plant or eat a lizard or try to get, fluid another way. Urotherapy. There's a lot of people pushing urotherapy for medicinal purposes. In fact, one of my friends came home and his mother-in-law was giving his daughter urine to drink, her urine. And he freaked out. And I can understand why. Because there's many cultures who use that. That's not something that we recommend. That is in America, that's just not something we do. I understand that some people have other cultures, but it's not sterile, especially coming from another person. It's highly concentrated. There's byproducts that you shouldn't touch. So what about peeing in the shower? I pee in the shower, not in the bathtub. Yeah. There are, we don't have a lot of health benefit evidence. In fact, the data is pretty piss poor, no pun intended. But many people do have smooth heels because of the urea. And some studies have looked at urea cream as being an adjunct not only to dry skin, but also addressing foot fungus. I can't recommend that per se, but it is something that we have seen in dermatological settings where urea applications from a medicinal pharmaceutical standpoint could provide some benefit. So, it's one of those things where we're still looking at it. But don't drink it. Don't apply it to your face. It's full of toxins. The pharmaceutical products do not have the cells and the heme and the byproducts. And, even some people have asymptomatic bacteria where they have bacteria in the urine. So it's supposed to be sterile, but sometimes it's not completely sterile because the urethra is open to the outside environment. And men, if at all you're having burning when you pee, or you think you have a bladder infection, UTI, you got to get that checked out, just like women do. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the Trump administration is getting some heat for, quote-unquote, sidelining a study that has to do with alcohol. And this was a study commissioned, I guess, under the Biden administration, looking at alcohol-related health harms. It was independently released this week. And they said it was reluctantly after the administration under Trump reportedly opted against incorporating its findings into new dietary guidelines. Now, we'll explain a little bit, but this is being reported by The Independent. And they said that the decision followed pushback from the alcohol industry and a congressional committee. The study, published in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol and Drugs, reinforced years of existing research, concluding that the health risks escalate with even a single daily alcoholic drink. They're not wrong about that. We've always said we can't really recommend alcohol because alcohol could be cancerous to some. There's risks for anybody. So we don't necessarily have a level of alcohol consumption that offers a protective effect on mortality. Even though many cardiologists will say, oh yeah, go ahead and have a glass of red wine, we can't recommend that because for some people that red wine could hurt them. They said even levels typically considered moderate were shown to increase the risk of premature death and contribute to over 200 diseases, including heart conditions and cancer. Now, the research, according to The Independent, was one of 2 government-commissioned reviews intended to inform the latest dietary guidelines. While the guidelines released earlier this year advised consuming less alcohol for better overall health, which is a very safe and correct statement, consume less. The authors of the independently published study argue this guidance lacked detailed practical advice regarding the specific risks of drinking. So accusing the Trump administration of sidelining or trying to suppress, I think is far-fetched. Robert Vincent, a former alcohol policy official at the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, spearheaded this multi-year effort, accused the Trump administration of, quote, sidelining the research. This allegation was made in an editorial accompanying the study, though the Trump administration has denied the claim. Yeah, I think that's kind of far-fetched. Vincent was subsequently laid off as part of a government reduction in force. Vincent said the challenges confronting alcohol policy today are not rooted in scientific uncertainty. What remains contested is whether evidence will meaningfully inform policy when it conflicts with commercial interests. So what's going on here? Well, let's go back. They say following the release, this is what they're accusing the Trump administration of. They said following the release of the draft report last year, They said the alcohol industry actively campaigned to discredit the study's work. The House Oversight Committee also weighed in, issuing a report earlier this year that labeled the study fraught with bias and accused its authors of having predetermined conclusions based on their prior research and affiliations. Now, Emily Hilliard, a spokesperson for the Department of HHS, refuted any suggestion that the study was not considered. She said HHS and the U.S. Department of Agriculture reviewed the study alongside the broader body of available scientific evidence and followed the established process for developing the 2025-2030 dietary guidelines for Americans. The guidelines are informed by the totality of the scientific record, not any single report or analysis. She's not wrong by that. But Vincent said that the researchers were vetted, they were checked for conflicts of interest, and you know, we're talking about alcohol. And the Trump's administration dietary guidelines is telling you to drink less alcohol. And the researchers behind the study don't dispute that. Where the big criticism is that their findings support a more, quote, detailed and forceful recommendations that current adult drinkers should consume 1 drink or fewer per day. Now, this is my issue. Whether I supported the Trump administration or not, you cannot put out there a recommendation that you should consume 1 drink or less. No. The Trump administration does not want to tell you to drink a glass of alcohol. They can't put that there. This is what's so ridiculous. I mean, they're criticizing the Trump administration for not putting that current adult drinkers should consume 1 drink or less. No. What most administrations do, or most health guidelines do, is they will not recommend drinking alcohol. And because do we have 100% scientific evidence on every single alcohol content, every single glass? I mean, I've bartended. When I do a shot, I mean, it's sometimes I give them a little more, right? You know, so I get a bigger tip. I mean, we can't scientifically just say, well, a glass. Well, you know, because we're looking at, 1.5 ounces of whiskey, or we're looking at a 6 to 8 ounce glass of wine, or if we aren't scientifically measuring, we can't say 100% what it's doing to the body. So in a generalization, we'll say drink less. And another thing the U.S. government has to be careful of, as well as we doctors, is telling somebody to not drink. If somebody drinks heavily and I tell my patient, stop drinking, they could seize and die. I have to be very careful about how I talk to them about their alcohol use. Because if you use alcohol extensively, you could go into DTs, delirium tremens. You can have a withdrawal seizure. I've taken care of many individuals where we had to save their life by giving them IV alcohol because their body was so used to alcohol that they were going through withdrawal. Benzodiazepine withdrawal and alcohol withdrawal could cause you to seize, and a seizure could cause you to die. So there's no way the Trump administration will say, don't drink any alcohol. Because somebody who drinks every day, if they immediately stop, that could be dangerous. So the Trump administration went with a very safe recommendation of we can't recommend alcohol, but to drink less. Opt for less alcohol. Less is better. Less alcohol for better overall health. It's a very safe statement. And I know everybody wants to, fight Trump over this, but one study comes out, and the government, you can't change all the guidelines for that one study. And when I went through medical school, we had something called Journal Club, where every month we had to bring in articles, and everybody talked about their articles, and then the grown-up doctors, the attendings, the adults would nitpick the article we chose and show why there were limitations or biases. And that was very educational. And I didn't realize how much crap out there was getting published that had bias in there. So you need an agency such as HHS to make sure that there's not bias being infused, or that there, who funded the study? And did it go, oh, okay, well, actually, you can have one drink. One thing I've learned as a physician is for most people, it's moderation. But I've also learned that if you say something and something bad happens to somebody, the lawyers are going to get you. So you have to be careful with what you say. And I remember asking cardiologists in my studies, going, patients keep telling me their cardiologist said to drink a glass of wine. When is that going to be an actual recommendation? And they said it's not going to be, because there's too many risk factors with alcohol. They can't recommend somebody drink a glass of wine. What if they get into an accident? Even women could get tipsy with one glass of alcohol. So they are starting to limit, saying, look, this idea that men could have 2 and women could have 1. I love the fact that they're starting to go down on that. And what the Trump administration is doing is, while we're figuring this out, say less alcohol is better. I agree with that. I really do. But I know everybody wants to, no matter what, Trump could cure cancer. They're going to be critical of that. They're going to, and it's very frustrating that that's where we are today with this. But, for those of you that drink heavily, if you are going to be cutting back on alcohol, you got to do a doctor supervised, because it can be dangerous, cutting abruptly. And if you don't drink, don't start. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So over the weekend, somebody had asked me about how to address a 2-year-old that may be very unruly, obstinate, terrible twos. And, it's interesting because, the way we were parented and spanked and belted, or, finding a switch and it had to be a good one, and then getting spanked with it and pulling down our pants and getting spanked on the butt and other things. It was, we in the 90s and 2000s, we trained parents, no, we don't do that anymore. And parents chose non-corporal punishment, ways to punish their children. But then we have a generation of children who were under disciplined. And it went the other way. We don't want kids beat. We don't want corporal punishment. We don't want, people having to take off their pants and get spanked. And we stop spanking in schools and all that. But then we have a generation of kids that, well, so what if I fail the class? So what if I'm late? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? My parents already took away my phone. What are you going to do about it? And so, people are kind of, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go in terms of disciplining. What I did with my kids, and I told you this, I didn't want to do to them what I had. And luckily my husband was on board, so no belts, nothing like that. They even punished us with our pets, and, I don't want to go into detail, but it was not good as a kid. And so with my kids, we didn't want to spank or smack or anything like that. But then I told you guys this case where what happened is I'm at a park with my son. And it's a very, very big park. And I was with the baby, the younger brother. So I have both kids there. And, the younger one is a baby, so he's in a stroller and I'm trying to change him. And my son goes, Mom, me and so-and-so, he met this girl at the park. We're going to go and get some ice cream. We're going to go to the ice cream truck. I'm like, I didn't hear any ice cream truck music. What? So I look up and I go, what ice cream truck? And about a football field away, across the park, is a white van. I've never met this girl. That does not look like an ice cream truck. And this girl is telling him, come with me. We're going to get some ice cream. I said, no, you're not going. Sorry, sweetie, he's not going. You stay here and help me with mommy. Help mommy with Brock. So I'm changing Brock and I'm trying to throw out the poo-poo diaper and whatever. And I look around and here's Stone, my older one, halfway across the park. So halfway down. So 50 yards with this girl going towards this unmarked white van. I leave the baby and I bolt across the park and I grab him and I take him back and I go, I told you no. And he's like, okay. He just didn't look scared. Like I used to look scared with my parents. And I told my friend about that. Meanwhile, I have to leave the other child alone at a park. So I'm racing back, trying to deal with both kids. And I told my friend about this. She's like, he needs to be scared of you. And not so that, he listens to you. But if a bad guy wants to do something to him and he says, look, I'll hurt your mom. And put fear into them because they'll say that I'm going to hurt your mom. You need your kid to think that your mom is the badass person on the planet, that the bad guy should be scared of your mom. And I took my kid home and I gave him a spanking. Now he giggled and he didn't whatever because I just don't know how to spank hard, but that was the first time I spanked him. Because I'm like, look, if I say no, it's because, that was a bad thing. He listened to this girl over me because he didn't fear the consequences. Now, the spankings didn't work. We tried to do the timeout. And as the boys got older, would put them in timeout. And then they would be laughing. So we separated them in timeout. And then they would look around the wall and corner and give each other the middle finger. So I had to come up with more creative ways to punish them. So when they were in the showing the middle finger and flipping the bird phase, I took my very sparkly nail polish and I painted their middle fingers. And they were forced to hide their middle fingers because they didn't want anybody to see the nail polish. Well, that solved that. I haven't seen my kids flip the bird since. We would take things away. We would, every now and then, would I give them a swat? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it was nothing like belt, pulling down your pants, things like that. So you have a 2-year-old that, and parents are like, how do I know? Is it autism? Is it, terrible twos? Are they very smart? It could be that they're very, very smart, and I guess the situation was the child was at a game in a stadium and the kid wanted to keep running up the stairs. And so the first thing I said is, you can't bring 2-year-olds to games. You can't take them to a Golden Knights game. You can't take them to unless you have like they're not going to want to sit cramped up. They're not going to understand and be able to see and conceptualize that, which is why most people don't bring their young kids. You want to bring your 4 or 5-year-old maybe, but a 2-year-old, that's not going to work. But what does seem to work, and this worked for me and my kids, is let's say they want to throw a temper tantrum and they want to just scream and yell. So what I used to do is if it would be in a restaurant or would be in a public place and they want to scream and yell, I'm like, all right, let's go outside. You're going to scream and yell. I put them in the car, put the air conditioning on, or roll down the window. And then I go, okay, go, yell and scream. Wah, yeah, scream. Okay, all right. Are you done yet? No, I'm not done. I mean, after about a few seconds, they get tired. I go, you sure? Are you done? I open the door. They start to scream again. I close the door again, even though the windows are down or the air's on. And I go, when you're done, we'll go back in. No, they fatigue. Bring them back. Then they want to start up again. I bring them back to the car, let them scream and yell. I don't, I'm not going to punish them. I'm not going to smack them. You want to scream and yell. You want to air out your concern. And a lot of times it's because they might not want to be somewhere or they want something else or they want to manipulate me to, look, I hate going shopping too. I can't stand going shopping. And if I had to go shopping with the boys, I understand why they didn't like it. I didn't like it either. But I'm like, look, I want to get the hell out of here as fast as I can because I hate shopping. Are you with me? Help me. And we were able to get through shopping quicker. Now, when you do have a child that might, let's say, be on the spectrum, all right, oftentimes the reason why they are struggling is because they're very, very smart. They don't want to be there. The chair is uncomfortable. The sitting in the shopping basket is uncomfortable. They're bored. They're cold. But they might not be able to communicate it, well. And so, if at all you have a child that's very unruly, but you just can't seem to connect or use logic with them, get them evaluated because it could be a sign of, them being on the spectrum. But don't underestimate how smart they are because the average kid doesn't really want to go to a grocery store. I get that. In fact, when I had to go to the grocery store with my mom, I entertained myself by trying to, steal like the candies because there would be bags of candy and you would and you would like Brock's and things like that, try to take one. I like the jelly oranges. The little jelly sugary things, or I would stick my fingers in the ground beef and it was very squishy. And so I would stick, and then unfortunately I would poke my finger through the plastic. So there were all these ground beef packets with, I got a spanking for that one. So I would entertain myself, but no kid likes to, go to Walmart or go to so you have to also understand, their form of thinking, but spanking and corporal punishment doesn't necessarily, work. In fact, they say a lot of adults have trust issues, have PTSD from some of the rougher type of punishments and beatings they got. But, is sometimes a smack on the butt or a slap on the wrist necessary? Yeah. If your kid keeps touching a stove and your choice is them having third degree burns or partial or full thickness burns on the palm of their hand, or you smacking their wrist, smack their wrist. Don't pull their hair and knock their head or, but you got to protect your kid. And your kid also has to know that if you say something and you mean it, there's going to be consequences. Whether they lose their game, whether they go to bed early, whether they don't get to go to the birthday party, or they have to do extra chores. One thing, by the way, that really worked with my son, drop and give me 20. I would make them do push-ups or burpees. And boy, did that get them into line. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.